Mete on catch up home here.
I think from now they'll have more time.
Yeah.
Okay, now my engage.
Yeah, meet me.
But I'm almost done and close over, you know. So you have more of me.
Mate. But where do you tell? After the presentation, we'll do a more detailed analysis. What expectations really? As somebody our finance committee, and so for a long time, you are ranking on the mines and energy committee. What expectations from budget presentation? Because on your day, me pacho.
I mean, whether NDC, MPP, things are really, really tough. We had the rate of inflation and exchange rate. Pimpina could get into the no. It means any more thing. I mean, anybody listening to a program here can correct or attest to the fact that things are very, very difficult. What we were expecting is buying the policies kakrabeba. Taxes are but it looks like never know when you're much.
Emoshi meaning say when your hint said there will be new tax handles and
Oh yes, sure, finance minister there. And he was categorical, said they are seeking to raise additional revenue of 1% equivalent to GDP. And I'm business what GDP is looking at about 1 billion. 1 trillion, sorry, 1 trillion.
1 trillion.
So 1% of 1 trillion, no, on one no, is looking at about 11 billion cedis of additional revenue. He anticipates the economy will grow to about 1.1 trillion nominally. And normally, so our economy grew nominally by that astronomical margin, because Michelle last budget, the size of the economy was like 800 billion. To grow nominally from 800 billion to, you have to say 1 billion, no?
Mm-hmm. To 1 trillion.
To 1 trillion, yes. Sorry. 800 billion to 1 trillion. I hope that I'm making sense now.
Yes.
Then you need to grow the economy nominally by about 85%. You don't look at only the nominal growth of the economy, you also look at the real growth of the economy.
Mm-hmm.
The real growth of the economy is just about 2%. But nominally, the economy is growing very, very higher. The only thing about accounting for that is inflation. Because what they do is that they just take the goods, the prices of finished goods and services at a particular point within the year. You know where it means inflation and more shit. Until nominally economy no a grow no. A grow you have a lower debt to GDP. But then you have a lower tax to GDP as well. Now, and the IMF program, no, about where science said we ought to attain a certain lower rate of debt to GDP and a certain higher rate of tax to GDP. You can't achieve that too if your GDP is growing nominally at that high rate. A bank is compelled, because of the IMF program, no, to push up revenue in order to attain that threshold of tax to GDP. And you bizarre, no, are you coming with taxes? And I say, yes. It was categorical that they are looking at some tax measures in order to raise that additional revenue of 11 billion. Over media taxes, and I think a year or so. Masa upa ko check it in a clear car.
Habo.
But so just 1 minute. Recently, a clear car. Just 1 minute for just 1 second. I'm just extracting.
Okay.
The car a year $40,000. And as I intro, I'm just giving you the figures. Duty 189,000 cities. Handling charges 6,500. Agency registration 4,500. Number plate, DV plate 202. Service charge, documentation. You could see 201,000. Where's the luxury vehicle? A normal to taxi, you so that we can be productive. Now, you decide that you still want to come with tax handles worth about 11 billion. I said, look, one year, eventually you break the whole economy.
Yeah.
Now it's a fact. Well, already you to your COVID levy, you to your energy sector recovery levy, you to your pollution levy, you to your financial sector levy. I mean, you to your brain, and here you're crying, they say, VAT, no. VAT, no, so one's not VAT, no, any get fund, any child in the boom. Abaya decided that they would decouple it.
Yes.
Into the Uber Tria get fund, no, 2.5%. No, Tria NHIL, 2.5%. And Sani are canning in a boom near the VAT, not better so. So you are paying VAT on taxes. I mean, which country does that? Is it, man, I don't want to turn this into a political football. They say they're gonna pay enough. But I'm convinced that they are buying with the economy over. Emotion, to be frank with you.
Honorable Inti, sir, Osha the 11 billion Ghana cedis additional revenue are buying, expected say Obe Reki in Omaka. According to the Okachon, finance minister said they would introduce new tax handles. But Wamaye who the specific tax handles or the beba. How else in the alternative, no? Can government raise say 11 billion? If we all agree,
Thank
say,
you, Master.
what's he raise here? Yeah.
Thank you. I told him, finance minister, it's not just about raising revenue. It's also about managing your expenditure. Managing an economy is a function of revenue and expenditure. It is the revenue, no, and show up the way I will pay. Look at the expenditure side as well. Over, so we have a penny. Not a Niamamuya dia. You every day. You no Fantaniko every day. You adjust and grow the economy. As the economy grow, no, you generate more revenue through productivity. But if your whole issue is a revenue, but you know, he's locked himself in because IMF conditionality. You sign on to an IMF conditionality indicating that you must meet a certain tax to GDP ratio. It is not even in his hands. I mean, what you could see that look, the man is not really in charge of Niakosuno. Because one Wakosani, actually, I say, you meet a certain tax to GDP ratio. And inflation increases GDP nominally. So you are compelled to raise that revenue. It's very difficult, but I think, say, if he can ensure, say, Obehe expenditure side niswa,
and for the expenditure side, no, because they consistently we've been told by governments they've done quite a bit on the expenditure side. You know, reduction in salaries, appointees, AJ, fuel allocations, our mateso, and a raft of other measures. Or more free say, you know, a buying expenditure. About from the fact say or more car usage there's now a policy baby I'll be to me V8 call baby also the saloon cars echo what other things should government do under the circumstances?
No, what we should rather be asking is that how much have they saved from that so-called policy? That is the question. Also what it way so oh first and now your total bill 11 billion yet it is you're saving 2 billion the gun of almost no more. Would that not make sense? I'm not aware of any salary reduction.
Okay.
Me new salary reduction be all they said is your mum from salary nibi and got 2 for 2 be monomufanya to maybe. I don't have the details. Me kaisa mama breso in United
chips compound, yes.
I want to see the figures. We want to see the savings. That is how you manage an economy. Then look, because of so and so policy, we've made so and so savings, which is quite significant. If we can drive it down to everybody, from now ministers maybe to departments, to agencies, to schools, to D&D, we are improving, we are bringing about efficiency, and these are the savings we want to make. Revenue need a watch measures 11 billion. But what measures are also we taking to reduce expenditure? No, I mean that's not fair. It's not fair, mother. You can't run the economy the way we are going about it. I'm very worried. If you keep taxing people the way we are taxing people now, it eventually makes your country uncompetitive. Because all kinds of, I went to WDI and checked the tax to GDP ratio. Admittedly, no, some countries are higher than us.
Yes.
A lot of other countries too are lower than us. But more importantly, what government classify as tax revenue no, in Ghana no, is so problematic because levies they don't consider them as tax revenue. But that is cost to you and I. If you don't look at only direct taxation, you are rather looking at the cost to an individual. It is a what did you levies be pay. Now I decided to say those levies in India won't friend a tax revenue. You call them levies or IGF. No one for at the capping and realignment. You are deceiving us. And I think the government is not being fair to us. Beyond this, let some other independent analysts engage all of us. Now you discuss these issues in a very professional manner so that we can determine how to chart the way forward. But I'm convinced that look, that new taxes are day by day.
And do I get a sense for more on the minority side, no? And now they are part of the approval of any new tax handles, right?
Well, the minority leader is here to give us his direction.
Okay.
But maybe the Kamen Kwandia, we should not be part of the approval of these tax handles. Other things we can help because it's nation building. But additional taxes here or day by day, from a very objective point of view, no, I intend to vote against it. Unless, of course, I'm whipped. Maybe I intend to vote against it.
But realistically, JJ, and looking at where the economy is, and I think across the divide, no biajitum say we are not in a good place. So if one critical thing to get us out of the hole ayewum is to rake in more revenue, which revenue would be from the people. Because buying ain't me in scanning free baby apart from the people and also beji loans. Ain't the cutting down expenditure, no? Can they cut down to say 11 billion? No? Looking at currently our buying expenditure levels, is it practical to cut down say 11 billion? No? Possible?
You might not get 11 billion, but we've done some analysis. You say you can cut up to like 7 billion.
7 billion.
That's one. Yes.
Okay.
Two, and more importantly, you can't trust their buying air can. Obi minimum na 2021. Because of COVID, you tax rate. The tax bear 7 but
yes, that's true.
Yet all those taxes, and I mean, look at the taxes, Nadia. Every boy, one, energy sector recovery levy, financial sector recovery levy, COVID levy, pollution levy, additional VAT, even though we disagree, no. You betcha. Send a bema or my nation and answer. I didn't check 2022 norms I buy. So no. Yes, and you are 11, say. And then a bebois. And also giddy, no crowd, okay, the pinche by. They eventually got their way through. And 2023, the same. And then 2024 budget. 4 good years in a run. So even the credibility is not there. You can't trust what they are saying and you can't believe in what they are saying. And most of the projections, media review budget now, they miss a lot of them because normally you don't do the analysis on cash basis. The most important is to do it on accrual basis. And also accrual, in terms of all the major landmarks now, they are gone. Where domestic debt exchange museum, they said they were making about 10 billion. You check the movement in the exchange rate. Do they check it? Dollar losses, no, and hit that against our foreign component of the debt. It's virtually wiped off. It does appear that you are buying air, you know, or can you be brave, but the end result, no, is not there. On one of the catches, you are buying a corner. Minister of Finance, we've now turned the corner. Things are now going to be okay. See, I can't say what turn the corner, never be okay. It means I'm over here how.
Yes.
That is what it means. Unless there's a different definition. Because you are in a difficult moment. Sacrifice it. And I will say, so baby, your book on no. Which means we've moved out of the difficult era. Now, I've had 11 billion. Hey, mother.
Apart from taxes issues, no, what else are you expecting to hear? Nyame Adoma Ochina.
Well, we are entering into an election year.
Yes.
Fortunately, no, the IMF program appears to be guiding us a bit. Abayin said they need that leverage to go now to the Bank of Ghana and ask for printing of money, because there's now a zero financing from the Bank of Ghana.
Mm-hmm.
And where taxes are the ports, because akosro no, ama imports no eco form. Imports eco form, it can help your currency, but also means the revenue no so eco form.
Yes.
I expect we should be moderate. We are not out of the woods. That is a fact. Over. Obia Onenebekasa Wakano Krabia will tell you, say, we are still in very difficult times. Difficult times are unreal chocolate. Unreal Kusia Bebre. Nyama Abayan Peso Yan because of elections pressure. No. Yeah. Well, yeah, Obia, you want to see flyovers, but you look at the flyovers. Bebre are conquer. Maybe it's only 13 flyovers. You can decide, say, instead of 13, no. You need critical 2 and 3. Now you're complete. If you are near for another 2 or 3, now you're complete. See, that is what I want to see from government. Prioritization. Agenda 111. Or man within 1 year. Realistically, did you believe that this government and this country can build all those hospitals in 1 year? Maybe Yanka said, your agenda 111 bet your faces. Reading BI, Bema will be a 3, 4. You ain't see a new year. The last one, your tax waivers. And it didn't more budget in Empire. We have about, I think, 500 and something billion, or is it 500 and something million? I was just checking, weight of tax waivers on the other 2 parliament. Tax waivers need to be, you know, for our question, MY.
But what happened to the bill? Bill, no, I was saying.
Hey, I've had an power. Interest won't papa. Interest won't.
And also, I jitum say it to me, yeah. Ebe save is canon interest problem. Challenge us.
I feel like the 2 money. But let's go with the bill to parliament too. I would not believe with our finance committee for the hockey cow. But I hope, say, all right above our personal and individual interest. Yeah, your interest is a fact. Dear Madam, for people, we were habit. And we look at the national picture. Now, yeah, or money includes a lot of the loopholes, a lot of the gaps. Because I would tax it too much for port mother, it will lead to tax evasion. There's always a threshold. No more my taxation Kakrano will tell you, say, if you tax beyond a certain threshold, your revenue rather goes down, because people will now begin to look at other avenues they avoid it and now evade tax.
That's true.
Budget in my I mean, he indulges, we met him. Yeah, so your dreams say, but yeah, even some of the majority members were quite frank, saying, we are. I hope, sir, advice I dear man, no. Even though by now I would expect a budget now has been printed, no. He would go back and look at it
and tweak a few things.
Yeah. And I even told him energy sector. So when I was a debt at the ho into open haircut. But why selected the more you are free? What is the criteria? Only the GMP person who borrows can be some companies. So company the way you are free haircut in him. That's what I told you, another minister. You can't do that. So your haircut, let it go across board. Let there be equity. Or be any haircut in it. But do isolate you? Somebody among your haircut now. Women be your haircut. It creates distortion. And you ask yourself, so what is the criteria? Who you were a free man? Wait there or no magic? And what here? A lot of the fuel suppliers, no. Woman or mom per se, or mobile faces are haircut, no. And when you go and look at those companies and their ownership, you see, a program, no, you don't create avenue for speculation in your money. But it's worrying, and we intend to probe some of those issues on the floor. We may not win as a minority, but we will push to the best of our ability. Now, Yeah, I'm sure someone number reporting.
Very well. If in the statement tomorrow, what is a buy a cut budget to the parliamentary service? Is it something you would support?
So one cut baby, baby, our station for post budget review.
Yes.
We've decided to say by parliament.
Oh,
okay.
okay.
Because now say Bomika. Mostly me drive a back near Siamba. I mean, driving all the way to Paris or now, go and back on a daily basis. No, every mechanic before. Your parliamentary got now was a snack number. My dear snacker, yes, you are near Sabafi. It's good. Those things should be quantified, and you people should know.
Yeah.
Your compressor and can best penny, and then your co in your best penny. Down savings and yenya. Such savings in your deco. Is it going to the health sector? Is it going to agri? Is it going to education? I think when we engage in kind of constructive engagement, we'll make progress as a nation.
It's true. JJ, we'll talk again. I may add more after the presentation. Why? Yes, that's it. John Jinapor, a member of parliament, Yapeko Sogo. He is a member of the finance committee in Ghana's parliament and ranking on the mines and energy committee in parliament. And